I'm Michael Bain, and welcome to Triggered, coming to you from the secret hidden bunker in the Rocky Mountains, Dragon House Studios, where you can still see your breath, and as always brought to you by Midway USA. Just about everything for shooting, hunting, and the outdoors. Believe me, it was a lot colder in here this morning when I turned on the heater. I wanted to talk to you a little bit about SHOT Show trends, talk about some products that were introduced at SHOT, and then also some that were introduced after SHOT and what the implications of those are. First thing I want to talk about is Sig, who was not at SHOT, but introduced a new product this week, and that would be the Sig Sauer P365 Spectre. The Spectre's sort of their high-end, pretty-looking guns. They have gold trigger, nitride gold barrel, but one of the interesting things about the new Spectre is it comes with a compensator. So what you have is, this is, of course, my everyday carry gun, Sig 365 with an XL length slide, 65 length grip frame. So you have a gun that is this long, but in fact, the slide is 365 length with a compensator taking up this additional space. And the reason I brought that up is, why would Sig do that? Several people said, well, the only difference is cosmetic. And that is because Sig has succeeded in turning the 365 into a platform. That is, there's a zillion parts out there in all the colors of the rainbow. Some actually work. And what's happened is that people are constantly modifying or buying new 365s just to modify. So Sig wanted to take a piece of that market, and that's what you'll see the P365 Spectre do. It will grab a piece of the market. Second thing Sig introduced that is just as important is they introduced a new version of their red dot. This is, of course, a Romeo Zero red dot. Came out pretty much simultaneously with the 365 to fit that narrow frame. Sig has announced a Romeo Zero Elite, which includes tougher polymer in the housing, upgraded glass, a steel shield to protect the sight. Most importantly, you can get it in a 3 MOA dot or a dot and a donut, a 2 MOA dot and a 32 MOA circle. Why would Sig do that? Probably that reason right there. The probably #1 red dot sight, green dot sight for these small guns is the Holosun 507, which offers interchangeable reticles. Sig sees more and more people going to maybe a dot and a donut reticle. I know I certainly have. They wanted to make sure they had a product. The interesting thing is I'm already seeing the Romeo Zero Elite at $200. Another trend I just wanted to make you aware of is the use of lever rifles, either for self-defense or for hunting, and seeing rifles dedicated for those specific areas. You saw Bighorn Armory and their 500 Smith & Wesson Magnum offering a tactical version. You see Henry's been offering a tactical version for a couple of years. The point is they're here to stay. As Taylor's Firearms has a tactical version, one thing that I thought was interesting is every single lever action manufacturer told me that they can't keep guns on the shelf, and the reason is self-defense, because they work so well at it. This, of course, is my old Marlin Dark, which I built into a tactical rifle, and which you now don't have to build. Trust me, you can just go get one. But finally, companies have recognized that hunters have different needs than people who collect lever guns or shoot them just for fun or even competition. So you've seen, for example, Taylor Firearms, good friends at Taylor, they're doing a 16.5-inch 4570. And it's a clone Winchester 1886, but it's got a rail, it's got a threaded barrel. It is designed for the hunter. You're seeing that with some, Winchester itself has been making 1886s for a long time, but finally, they're offering, I think it's a 20-inch barreled 1886 saddle ring carbine, substantially less weight than their more typical long octagonal barrel 1886s. That is coming specifically from hunters who say, you know what? I don't need to lug a 24, 28-inch barrel into the field, especially if I'm shooting something like 4570. It just doesn't need it. I like to think that we were on the forefront of that. In fact, I talked to one lever gun manufacturer, and I thought it was a funny line. I said, so you're telling me that self-defense and hunting is driving lever gun sales? And I said, is that kind of a surprise? And he goes, well, it shouldn't be to you, since you and Richard Mann and Andy Larson from Skinner Sights have been driving this market like crazy for the last 2 years. Are you happy? And the answer is yes, we're happy. We'll have more when Triggered returns. This week's Triggered is brought to you by Midway USA. Just about everything for shooting, hunting, and the outdoors. Volquartsen Firearms. Excellence is essential. Rock Island Armory Arms Corps, home of the STK 100. Welcome back to Triggered, and we're here with a gun you've seen a lot of times. This is an Angstadt Arms UDP-9, and I've had it for a lot of years, in fact, since Rich Angstadt started making these guns. And it is obviously PCC, pistol caliber carbine. 9mm uses Glock magazines, basically AR standard carbine. When I got this, I thought, you know, this may be one of the best PCCs that I own. And I have seen nothing that changed my mind on that. You know, if I were to pick three that I really liked, the Angstadt Arms, the UDP, the Ruger PCC, the Charger with the folding rear brace, and for competition, JP rifles. It's hard to beat JP rifles for competition. But this gun, I don't think it's ever failed on anything. I don't think it's ever not run. It's an enormously well-designed little PCC. It's why I used it as a platform for a binary trigger. With the binary trigger, it will, in fact, run like a scalded dog. But Rich Angstadt called me up, said, come by the booth at SHOT. We haven't sat down and talked in a long time. So because the SHOT Show was the way it was, kind of SHOT Show light, Rich and I had a chance to talk, and he showed me the MPD. I think I got that right. His newest version of this gun, and he now has 9mm 45, 5.56, 300 blackout, but his newest version of this gun uses a roller bearing system like an MP5, like an HK MP5 submachine gun. It's built as a submachine gun, but then obviously semi-auto for civilians. It's beautiful. With the roller system, you don't need the buffer tube, so you can have, he has a 1913 rail on it, so it can be folded. Otherwise, it looks very similar to this system. When Rich showed me the gun, I thought, wow, this is a really great product, because right now, it's kind of interesting. The market is crazy for roller system semi-autos. You can even get an MP5 if you'd like to mortgage your car, or a semi-auto version of an MP5. There are a number of other clone versions. But Rich's version is probably, to me, one of the most feature-rich and one of the most well-thought-out systems. So I asked Rich just right off, now, I kind of know the advantages of a roller system. I know that they feels differently than just a straight blowback 9mm. But what's the biggest thing you see? And he goes, simple. Are people willing to pay for a roller system gun? Because if you go to the roller version, the Angstadt roller gun, it's going to cost you between $2,500 and $2,700, whereas UDP-9 is around $1,400 to $1,800. So therein lies the question. If you're a great fanboy for roller system guns, and you've always dreamed of owning an MP5, and you wanted to have something that's actually better than an MP5, I recommend Angstadt Arms to you. Last thing I want to show you here today is this guy. This is my gun that you've seen before. It is from Shadow Systems, and this is the 920X. But the interesting thing from Shadow Arms that we've been talking about here is they have two versions that are new that they showed at the SHOT Show. And the main one that really attracted my eyes, the one that they brought me to the booth to see, was the CR902, which is their version of a miniature 9mm, mini 9mm micro. It's roughly the size of a Glock 43, 2 magazines, 10+1, 13+1. It will fit Glock 43 magazines, and it uses all of the technology that Shadow Systems has developed for these guns. The second version is a competition version, so it's got roughly the slide of a Glock 17, that length, and an integral compensator built in. It will fit in G35 holsters. If I were to have picked a gun from 2021 that was my gun of the year, which I don't do because everybody picks the gun of the year, it would be this guy. It would be the Shadow Systems 920X. It's one of the best guns that I've ever shot. The rethinking of the way to set the sight into this slide, perfect. There's a lot of things going on with this gun that are not obvious to the eye, but one of the things Shadow System told me is they're starting to see police departments being really interested in this line of guns. So something to watch out for. We will have a CR 920 as soon as there's some available. Show it to you right here on Triggered. Now, when we get back, it's time to talk to an old friend, Stephen Hunter. Of course, the Pulitzer Prize winning author of the Bob Lee Swagger novels. He's got a new novel out. It's called Targeted. Makes fun of a couple of people in Washington you might well recognize. Bob Lee finds himself run afoul of the federal government again. Stay with us. Let's talk about the new book, Targeted. It's a Bob Lee Swagger book, but it's a Bob Lee book that is a little different than many of the others that you've written. Why don't you give me the inevitable elevator speech that I know you've given 1,000 times since the book came out? Tell me what this book is.
Well, let's say, let's start with what prompted it. And what's always annoyed me, it's a regular ceremony in our culture, most recently seen in the Kim Potter incident in Wisconsin. And this occurs when people of inaction judge people of action for something they've done in action, about which the people in action know nothing. That's always struck me as an appalling moral catastrophe. And so I decided to take Bob Lee Swagger and put him in legal jeopardy for having done the right thing. And I was interested in the way these episodes are perceived. I was interested in the way they're used for political gain. I was interested in the whole process of examination and adjudication. In my case, I followed directly from Game of Snipers, and I had Bob brought to before a hearing, a House hearing, field hearing in Boise, Idaho, on the shot he took on Juba the sniper in Game of Snipers. And I wanted him to engage in blood sport dialogue with various people who felt they knew what he should have done as opposed to what he did do. This on the basis, as I say, of nothing. And what I wanted to do was then reverse the situation. And suddenly they have no power, and they desperately, fanatically, obsessively, pathetically need him to survive. And that illustrates, to me at least, the way people feel about the deployment of force in our country. We don't want the cops until we have someone in our house. Then we want the cops. The same thing is, we don't want a gun in the house until someone breaks in. Then we want a gun in the house. And I wanted to look at that hypocrisy. And I wanted also to have fun with some personalities who are very vivid in the current political scene, whom who both fascinate me and appall me. And so I have portraits of a couple of well-known politicians in there, not portraits, satirical exaggerations of them. I put that in strictly for laughs. You know what? I think this book, uh, among other things, it's one of its virtues is it's pretty damn funny. And I had great fun doing the funny parts. As I get older, funny seems a lot more important than it used to seem. I don't know why that is. Funny is always good, okay? So I had fun writing it, and it seemed that it it. I'm glad it's out. Let's put it this way. There were lots of issues along the way. As you know, I included a backstory of origins, where the Bob Lee Swagger family comes from, where the genetic information that enables them to shoot, not all of them, but most of them at this extraordinary level, where it comes from, to give it some source, some reality in history. And I had great fun doing that as well. That's based, to be honest with you, it's based on a novel that I wrote years and years ago. I never wrote it, that I tried to sell years and years ago. And I was told it was set in the Revolutionary War. And I was told that as a commercial proposition, the Revolutionary War is dead as a donut. So this way I managed to get enough of it in there to satisfy me. Plus, and the last thing, I love sword fights. I grew up watching Errol Flynn movies. I just really enjoy sword fights in movies. And I've had one good sword fight in my Japanese book, but I've had this ideal image of a sword fight to the death in the rain, in the mud, with two guys fighting a Florentine, which means they have a sword in each hand, a long sword and a short sword. It was a dueling technique of the 18th century, and so I managed to build the book in such a way as to include that. And some people get it, some people don't. Some if you're charitably inclined towards that sort of thing, you will find this fabulous. If you're not, you won't. That's just the deal with me. If this is the thing you like, this is the thing you like. If not, bye. No hard feelings, okay?
You probably suspect that Stephen Hunter and I talked a little bit longer than 5 minutes. You'd be absolutely right. Stephen Hunter and I have never had a 5-minute conversation in the years and years and years that I've known him. The rest of my interview with Steve Hunter on his new book, Targeted, will be available as a Triggered special in the next couple of weeks. Watch for it, we'll let you know. So, lots of trends going on, more trends that we're going to be following as we go forward. I'm Michael Bain. This is Triggered. We are brought to you by Midway USA, just about everything for shooting, hunting, and the outdoors. And we will see you next week, where hopefully we won't see our breath.